The year was far in the future. Earth was no longer safe. Alien ships had been seen across the stars, moving closer every day. To fight them, the great Galactic Academy trained young warriors. Only the best could graduate and protect the human race. Inside the academy, strength, skill, and beauty were praised above all things. Everyone wanted the perfect partner. Someone strong, someone fast, someone who looked like a hero. But one young man, named Ethan, made a choice that shocked them all. It was the day of the selection ceremony. Students filled the giant hall waiting to pick their partners. The teachers sat above, watching with sharp eyes. Families and guests filled the seats, whispering with excitement. Each student stepped forward and called out the name of their chosen ally. The crowd clapped as strong boys chose strong girls and graceful girls chose skilled boys. Every choice looked perfect, like a hero story in the making. Then Ethan's turn came. He walked calmly to the stage. Everyone expected him to pick a famous fighter, one of the bright stars of the academy. Ethan was clever, strong, and respected. His choice would matter. The teacher raised his hand. "Ethan, step forward. Who will you choose as your partner?" The hall became silent. Everyone leaned in to hear. Ethan looked across the students. For a moment his eyes rested on the strongest, the most beautiful girls. Many of them smiled, already sure he would call their names. But Ethan's voice cut through the silence. "I choose Lyra." The crowd froze. Whispers spread. A few people laughed loudly. Lyra, the ugliest girl in the academy. She was small, with rough skin and scars on her face. Her hair was messy. Her uniform never seemed to fit. When she walked, her steps looked awkward, as if she did not belong there. Most students avoided her. Some called her cursed. Some said she was too weak to even finish training. And yet Ethan had chosen her. The hall erupted in noise. Is he serious? He could have picked anyone. He wasted his chance. Even the teachers looked at each other in confusion. One of them leaned close to another and whispered, "Why would he pick her?" Lyra raised her head slowly. Her eyes met Ethan's. For a second, something strange happened. Her eyes seemed to glow faintly, like hidden fire under glass. But it was gone so fast that most people thought it was only a trick of the light. Still, Ethan saw it. He smiled slightly. The mocking voices grew louder. Ethan's best friend shook his head, covering his face in shame. "You're ruining yourself," he whispered, but Ethan did not care. The teacher cleared his throat. "Very well. Ethan has chosen Lyra as his partner." His voice carried doubt. "Step forward, Lyra." Lyra walked to the stage. Her steps were quiet, but the hall still filled with laughter. Some students pointed. Others whispered cruel jokes. "Look at them. They will be the first to fail." He picked a monster. Ethan ignored them all. He stood tall beside Lyra as she reached the stage. She did not smile, did not speak. She only lowered her head again, as if she was used to such words. The teacher looked at Ethan. "Do you confirm this choice?" "I do," Ethan said firmly. His voice was steady. The teacher nodded, though his eyes showed doubt. "Then it is decided. Ethan and Lyra, partners for the academy trials." The ceremony moved on, but the hall never forgot what had happened. Even as other names were called, students kept whispering and pointing at Ethan and Lyra. When the ceremony ended, Ethan and Lyra walked out together. The bright sun of the academy grounds lit the field, but shadows seemed to follow them. Students passed by laughing, mocking, and shaking their heads. "Why did you choose me?" Lyra finally asked in a low voice. Ethan looked at her. "Because I see something no one else sees." She blinked. "You don't know me." "Maybe not," he answered. "But I trust my choice." For a long moment, Lyra said nothing. Then she gave a small, tired smile. It was the first time Ethan had ever seen her smile. Behind them, groups of students laughed and made jokes. They did not know what Ethan had seen. They did not notice the way the shadows bent slightly as Lyra walked, or the faint hum in the air around her. But Ethan noticed. And deep inside, he knew one truth. This ugly girl was not what she seemed. The future of Earth might depend on her. The next day, the Academy's training grounds were alive with noise. Sparks flew from energy weapons. Engines roared from battle drones, and students shouted orders as they prepared for their first real practice as partners. The sun was bright, but the air felt heavy. Everyone waited to see Ethan and Lyra together. After the shocking choice at the selection ceremony, whispers had turned into loud rumors. They won't last one day. She can't even fight. He threw away his future. Ethan walked into the training yard with his usual calm steps. Beside him, Lyra moved silently, her head lowered. The crowd of students made space, not out of respect, but to watch the strange pair more closely. The instructor, a tall man with sharp eyes, barked, "Form lines with your partners." Pairs quickly stood ready, strong boy and strong girl, glowing with confidence. Weapons hummed in their hands, their armor shining in the sunlight. Then there was Ethan and Lyra. Ethan stood tall, but Lyra looked out of place, her uniform loose, her boots worn, her hands empty. A burst of laughter came from the other side of the yard. A group of top students smirked openly. One boy shouted, "Hey Ethan, did you bring her here to clean the floors?" The crowd burst into laughter. Ethan ignored them, but Lyra's shoulders stiffened. She kept her head down, not answering. The instructor raised his voice. "Today you will face your first trial. You will fight in pairs, test your teamwork, and prove your worth." He scanned the students, his eyes resting on Ethan and Lyra with doubt. "Some of you are already heroes in your own minds. Let us see the truth." The whistle blew. The first battles began. Sparks filled the air as teams clashed. Blades met shields, energy blasts lit up the sky. The crowd cheered as their favorites showed off perfect teamwork. Ethan and Lyra stepped forward when their turn came. Their opponents were tall, skilled, and smiling with cruel delight. Everyone leaned forward, eager to see Ethan fail. The match began. The two opponents rushed forward with flashing blades. Ethan blocked the first strike with skill, pushing back his attacker. But the second opponent went straight for Lyra. She froze, her hands trembling, her steps clumsy. She raised her arms too late. The blade struck her shield, throwing her back hard onto the ground. The crowd roared with laughter. "She can't even stand." Pathetic. Ethan quickly covered her, defending against both opponents. His movements were fast, sharp, but he was forced backward step by step. Lyra struggled to rise, her face pale with shame. "Get up!" Ethan shouted, blocking another strike. "I can't win this alone." Her legs shook, but she pushed herself up again. Her opponent smirked and knocked her down once more. The crowd screamed with laughter, some even clapping like it was a comedy show. The instructor shook his head. His voice was cold. "Ethan, your choice is costing you. A partner is meant to stand with you, not crawl behind you." Ethan's jaw tightened, but he kept fighting. Sweat ran down his face as he parried blow after blow. Lyra sat on the ground, staring at her trembling hands. Why had Ethan chosen her? She was weak. She was useless. The voices of the crowd cut into her mind like knives. Monster. Failure. Ugly and weak. Her chest tightened. She wanted to run, to disappear. But when she looked at Ethan, still fighting for her, still standing strong, something burned faintly inside her. A spark, she clenched her fists. Her eyes glowed faintly again. Just for a second, Ethan saw it. His voice was calm, steady. "Lyra, stand with me. Don't listen to them. Just stand." Her heart pounded. Slowly, she rose to her feet again. The opponents laughed. "Oh, she wants to try again?" They rushed forward. Lyra raised her hand. For a moment, the air around her vibrated. The energy from the opponent's blade sparked strangely, almost like it resisted him. He stumbled, confused. The crowd fell silent, unsure of what they saw. But then Lyra dropped her hand quickly, fear in her eyes, as if she didn't want anyone to notice. She let the blade knock her down again, hiding the truth. The crowd erupted once more in cruel laughter. The instructor blew his whistle and ended the fight. "Defeat," he declared. "Ethan, your choice is a mistake. You will not survive real battle like this." Ethan helped Lyra up gently. She would not look at him. She whispered, "I'm sorry." "I failed you." Ethan shook his head. "No, you didn't fail. You're holding back." She froze, staring at him with wide eyes. But Ethan said no more. He simply guided her away as the other students mocked them. Behind them, the crowd's laughter echoed across the yard. But a few sharp-eyed teachers whispered to one another. They had seen the energy spark. They had noticed the strange vibration in the air. She is hiding something. She is dangerous. Maybe Ethan knows what we do not. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the academy grounds. The mocking voices grew louder, but in the shadows something deeper stirred. Lyra's secret was not weakness. It was power. The academy's great hall buzzed with noise. Today was the day of the simulation battle, a test designed to copy real war against alien invaders. It was the most feared trial for young students. The machines created holographic enemies armed with real weapons. Failure here meant you could never graduate. Every team stood ready in their armor. The crowd of teachers and guests filled the viewing stands, eager to see which students would shine, but all eyes were on one pair, Ethan and Lyra. Since the training ground failure, the mockery had grown worse. Students whispered openly, "This will be a disaster. They'll lose in the first minute. Ethan is finished." Lyra stood at Ethan's side, her face pale, her eyes lowered. She could feel every gaze burning into her, every cruel word cutting into her heart. She wanted to vanish. The instructor's voice thundered, "Enter the simulation chamber." The giant steel doors opened. One by one, the student pairs walked inside. The room glowed with blue light and the walls shimmered as the system activated. Suddenly, the world around them changed into a ruined alien battlefield. Dark skies, broken towers, smoke rising in the distance. The battle began. Teams rushed forward, shouting commands. Energy weapons lit the air. Alien figures appeared, tall and monstrous, their claws sharp, their eyes glowing. The students fought bravely, their blades clashing against the creatures. Ethan tightened his grip on his weapon. He glanced at Lyra. "Stay close to me. Don't run." Lyra nodded weakly. Her hands trembled, but she followed him into the fight. Their first enemy charged. Ethan moved fast, striking with skill, pushing the creature back. But another monster leapt toward Lyra. She raised her shield too late. The impact threw her hard into the dirt. The crowd outside laughed. "Again, she's hopeless." Lyra coughed, struggling to rise. She could feel the eyes of the world on her. She wanted to cry, to give up. But then Ethan's voice came sharp and steady. "Lyra, get up. I can't fight for both of us. You must fight too." His words struck something deep inside her. She clenched her fists. She tried to stand. The alien roared and came at her again. This time something inside her broke free. Her eyes glowed with bright light. The ground shook under her feet. The alien froze mid-step, as if invisible hands had crushed it. Sparks burst from the air and the simulation's walls flickered. The crowd gasped. Lyra raised her hand. The alien screamed without sound, lifted into the air by unseen power. With a flash, it was ripped apart, vanishing into smoke. The battlefield went silent. Every student, every teacher stared. "What was that?" Someone whispered, but it did not end there. More aliens rushed toward her. Lyra turned her head slowly, her glowing eyes burning like fire. The creatures stopped, trapped by her invisible force. She clenched her hand and the ground split open. The simulation cracked, breaking apart as if reality itself could not hold her power. The entire system shook violently. Lights sparked. Screens shattered. Teachers shouted in panic, "Shut it down! Shut it down now!" But it was too late. Lyra had lost control. Energy poured from her like a storm. Ethan reached her side, shouting her name. "Lyra! Stop! You'll destroy everything!" Her breathing was heavy, her body trembling. She looked at him with glowing eyes, fear mixing with rage. I can't." He grabbed her shoulders. His voice was calm but firm. "Yes, you can. Listen to me, breathe, control it." For a moment, the world shook harder, walls breaking apart, students screaming. Then slowly, the glow in her eyes dimmed. The storm faded. The battlefield vanished. The simulation collapsed into silence. Lyra fell to her knees, exhausted. The room flickered back to normal, broken screens sparking in smoke. The crowd outside was frozen in shock. Not a single laugh remained. The instructor's face was pale. Teachers whispered in urgent tones, "She's dangerous. She's too powerful. No student should have that kind of strength." But Ethan stood beside her, helping her up gently. His voice was steady. "You see? You are not weak. You are stronger than all of them." Lyra shook her head, tears in her eyes. "They'll never accept me. They'll lock me away." Ethan looked at the stunned faces in the crowd. His jaw tightened. "Then let them fear. You are my partner, and I trust you." For the first time, Lyra looked at him with wide eyes, filled not with shame but with something new, hope. But in the dark corner of the hall, hidden from the crowd, a shadowy man in a black uniform watched with cold eyes. He spoke softly into a device on his wrist. "The experiment is alive. The girl's power is real. Prepare the order. She must be taken under control." The academy was never the same after the simulation battle. The halls that once rang with laughter now filled with fearful whispers. Did you see her eyes? She destroyed the whole system. She isn't human. Students who once mocked Lyra now kept their distance. They did not laugh anymore. Instead, they stared at her with wide eyes, whispering as she passed. Some looked at her with hate, some with fear, but not one dared to come close. Lyra walked with her head low, carrying the weight of every glance. She had become the ghost of the academy, feared and avoided. Ethan, however, stayed at her side. He ignored the stares, the whispers, the cruel words carved into the walls of the dorm. Monster, cursed, freak. He never left her. But the danger was greater than whispers. High above, in the hidden rooms of the academy, the teachers gathered. Their voices were sharp, uneasy. She is too dangerous. She could destroy the entire program. She should be locked away before she loses control again. One older teacher shook his head. No, she is the weapon we need. With power like hers, we could end the alien war forever. The debate raged, but no one asked Lyra what she wanted. That night, Lyra sat alone on the roof of the academy dorms. The stars stretched above, cold and endless. She hugged her knees, staring at the dark sky. "Why was I born like this?" she whispered. Footsteps approached. Ethan climbed up beside her, sitting quietly. He did not speak at first. They watched the stars in silence. Finally, Lyra spoke again. "I remember pieces. Not everything. I was a child, hidden in the shadows. Scientists in white coats, needles, machines, they said I was an accident, a failed experiment. I was never supposed to live." Her voice trembled, but she kept speaking. "They abandoned me in the academy. I was never a student. I was a secret." Ethan looked at her, his voice calm. "You are not a failure. You are stronger than any of us." She shook her head. "No, I'm a curse. If I lose control, I could destroy more than aliens. I could destroy everyone." Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then learn control. Don't run from it. Don't let them decide what you are. You choose." For the first time, Lyra lifted her head. His words struck deep, but doubt still clouded her heart. The next day, rumors grew louder. Students avoided Ethan now as well. Some even confronted him. "You're a fool," one boy spat. "She'll kill you." "She'll kill us all," another sneered. "When the government takes her away, you'll regret your choice." Ethan stood firm. His voice was steady. "I don't regret anything." But the whispers did not end. In the shadows of the academy, the man in the black uniform returned. He met with the headmaster secretly. "She cannot remain free," the man said coldly. "Orders have come from above. If she cannot be controlled, she must be eliminated." The headmaster hesitated. "She's still a child." The man's eyes narrowed. "She is not a child. She is a weapon, and weapons belong to the state." That night, Lyra woke from a dream, sweating and gasping. She saw flashes of her past. Strange labs, glowing machines, doctors whispering her name like a number, not a person. She remembered being strapped to a bed, her screams drowned out by cold voices. She sat up, trembling. Ethan, who was keeping watch nearby, asked softly, "Another nightmare?" She nodded. "I don't belong here. I don't belong anywhere." He leaned closer. "You belong here, with me. You are not a weapon. You are Lyra." Her heart pounded. She wanted to believe him. But deep inside, fear twisted like a blade. The following day, a secret meeting was held. Teachers gathered in the council chamber, but Ethan was not invited. The black uniformed man spoke firmly. "The girl will be taken tomorrow. She will be transferred to the military labs for study." A few teachers objected, but none had the courage to fight the order. The decision was made. That evening, Lyra stood on the training ground alone. The sky was red with sunset, the air heavy with silence. She whispered to herself, "Maybe this is my fate. To be caged, to be used. Maybe they are right." But in the distance, Ethan approached. His voice was calm yet firm. "No, that is not your fate. You are not their tool. You are stronger than they know. Stronger than they fear. You have to decide what you are." Lyra looked at him, her eyes filled with conflict. The wind moved around her strangely, carrying sparks of hidden energy. For a long moment, silence stretched between them, and then, faintly, she whispered, "If I stay, the world may break. If I leave, they will hunt me." Ethan's gaze was steady. "Then let them hunt. We'll show them who you truly are." High above, unseen in the shadows, the black uniformed man watched. He spoke quietly into his device again. She is beginning to remember. Tomorrow we move. She must not escape. The stage was set. The whispers of Lyra's past were no longer whispers. They were about to become a storm. The alarm shook the academy like thunder. Red lights flashed across the hall, sirens screamed, and voices filled the intercom. Emergency! Alien attack on Colony 12. All trainees prepare for battle. Students rushed through the corridors, armor clanging, weapons humming with power. The academy had trained them for this day, but no one expected it so soon. The aliens had struck one of Earth's outer colonies, and every fighter was needed. Ethan and Lyra stood in the assembly yard with the other trainees. Ships lined the launch pads, engines roaring. Teachers barked orders, rushing the students aboard. This is not a simulation, one instructor shouted. Today you fight for real. Follow orders or you die. The students nodded nervously. Some looked excited, others pale with fear, but most eyes turned toward Lyra. Even here, in the face of war, whispers rose. She'll get us all killed. They're really sending her? This is madness. Lyra lowered her head, shame burning inside her. But Ethan stepped forward, his voice clear. Enough. She's coming with me. The crowd fell silent. Moments later, the ships launched into the dark sky. Engines roared as they broke through the atmosphere, heading for the colony under siege. Ethan and Lyra sat together, the red light of battle warning flashing across their faces. Lyra whispered almost to herself, "If I lose control again, if I hurt someone." Ethan's voice cut through her fear. "Then control it. Trust yourself. Trust me." Her hands trembled, but she nodded. The ship landed in fire. Colony 12 burned. Smoke rose from shattered buildings. Screams echoed in the distance. Alien warships hung in the sky, their claws of metal tearing through defenses. Strange, insect-like creatures crawled across the streets, their glowing eyes filled with hunger. The trainees rushed out, forming teams. Energy blasts lit the air. Explosions shook the ground. "Stay close!" Ethan shouted. He cut through the first creature with his blade, sparks flying. Lyra stumbled behind him, her shield barely raised. Aliens swarmed, their claws striking like lightning. Other students fought bravely, shouting orders, forming walls of defense. But the enemy was too many. A scream cut through the battle. One of the Academy's strongest pairs fell, their armor torn, their weapons shattered. Panic spread. "We're losing!" someone cried. Ethan's heart pounded. He fought hard, but even he was being pushed back. A massive alien beast leapt toward him, claws raised. Ethan blocked, but the force threw him to the ground. The beast roared, turning toward him for the kill, and then it stopped. The air shook. Lyra stood behind it, her eyes glowing like fire. She raised her hand and the massive beast froze, its body trembling violently. Sparks burst from its skin as invisible energy crushed it. With a flash, it exploded into pieces. The battlefield fell silent for a moment. Every student, every soldier turned to stare. Lyra's chest rose and fell, her body trembling with power. She looked at the swarming aliens, and for the first time she did not lower her head. She stepped forward, her voice was steady. "Stay behind me," the creatures rushed. Lyra lifted both hands. The ground split apart, tearing through the battlefield. Aliens were lifted into the air, crushed, burned, ripped apart like paper. Her power poured out like a storm, unstoppable. The students froze, watching in awe. She was no longer the ugly girl they mocked. She was a force beyond anything they had ever seen. Ethan rose, standing at her side. "You see?" he shouted to the others. "She is not weak. She is our strength." For a moment, the trainees hesitated. Then slowly, their fear turned into courage. They charged forward again, fighting with new hope. Lyra's power tore through the enemy ships. With one strike of energy, she shattered a warship in the sky. The explosion lit the colony brighter than the sun. The alien screamed in rage, retreating back into the darkness. The battlefield fell silent, littered with smoke and fire. The students stood in stunned silence. Many were bleeding, exhausted but alive, because of her. The strongest of them, who once mocked Ethan, whispered in disbelief. She saved us all." The instructors, watching from their command post, looked pale. Some clapped. Others whispered in fear. One teacher muttered, "She is not a soldier. She is a weapon." Another shook his head. "No, she is something more." As the smoke cleared, Lyra fell to her knees, drained. Ethan rushed to her side, holding her steady. "You did it," he said softly. Her eyes were dim again, filled with fear. "I lost control, didn't I?" Ethan shook his head. "No, you chose control. You chose to fight for them. That's the difference." She looked at him. a small spark of hope flickering in her tired eyes. But far above, hidden on a distant ship, the man in the black uniform watched through a glowing screen. His cold voice echoed in the dark. She is beyond dangerous. If we cannot control her, we must destroy her. The victory at Colony 12 spread quickly across the galaxy. News channels played the same images over and over. A girl with glowing eyes tearing alien ships apart with a single wave of her hand. Some called her a savior. Others called her a monster. Back at the academy, silence filled the halls. Students no longer mocked Lyra openly. Instead, they stepped aside whenever she walked past. Some bowed their heads, afraid to meet her eyes. Others whispered behind her back, their voices trembling. She's too strong. She could kill us all if she wanted. She's not human. Lyra felt the fear pressing against her like invisible chains. Every glance was a reminder. They did not see her as one of them. They saw her as a weapon. Ethan stayed by her side, calm as always. But even he noticed the change. Former friends avoided him, their smiles gone, their voices cold. One evening in the cafeteria, his closest friend Darius approached with a hard expression. "You need to let her go, Ethan," Darius said quietly. "She's dangerous. Everyone knows it. You'll be destroyed with her." Ethan's voice was steady. "I trust her." Darius shook his head. "Then you're a fool. One day she'll lose control, and when she does, she'll take you with her." He walked away, leaving Ethan alone with Lyra. She had heard every word. Her hands shook as she whispered, "Maybe he's right." Ethan turned to her. "No, don't believe him. You saved them. They would all be dead without you." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "And yet they hate me more than before." That night, in the secret council chamber, the academy leaders met with the black uniformed man. His voice was cold and sharp. "She has proven her power, but she cannot be controlled. That makes her dangerous." One teacher argued. "She destroyed an alien fleet. Without her, the colony would be gone." The man narrowed his eyes. "Without her, we would not be one step closer to destruction. What happens when she turns on us? What happens when she loses control in the heart of Earth itself?" The room fell silent. His words carried weight. The decision was made in whispers. Lyra would be removed. Not thanked, not rewarded, removed. The next day, training resumed. The instructors called for teams to spar, but no one wanted to face Ethan and Lyra. They stood alone, ignored by the rest. When Lyra finally stepped into the ring, her opponent dropped his weapon. "I refuse," he said. "I won't fight a monster." The crowd of students nodded in agreement. Some even clapped. Lyra froze, her heart sinking deeper than ever. For a moment she thought she would cry in front of them all, but then she turned and left the ring without a word. Ethan followed, his voice tight with anger. "Don't listen to them." But she could not stop the voices echoing in her head. Monster, weapon, cursed. That night, soldiers came quietly to her dorm. They moved like shadows, their boots silent, their faces hidden under helmets. The black uniformed man led them. "By order of the Galactic Council," he said coldly, "the girl will be transferred to military custody." Lyra's eyes widened. "Transferred? What does that mean?" "You will be studied," he replied. "Your power belongs to the state now." Ethan stepped forward, blocking their path. "No, she's not your prisoner." The man's voice sharpened. "Step aside, boy. Do not throw your future away for her." Ethan's hand tightened on his blade. His eyes burned with defiance. "I already chose my future, and it's with her." The soldiers raised their weapons. The room filled with deadly tension. Lyra's breath came fast. She looked at Ethan, fear and guilt tearing inside her. "If you fight them, you'll be branded a traitor." "I don't care," Ethan said firmly. Her chest ached. No one had ever stood for her before. But now someone was willing to risk everything. The standoff broke when the academy alarm suddenly blared again. This time it was not practice. An alien strike force had breached the outer defenses. Explosions shook the academy walls. The soldiers hesitated, torn between their mission and the emergency. The black uniformed man cursed under his breath. "Another attack. Fine, she fights tonight. But after this, she is mine." He and his soldiers withdrew, leaving Ethan and Lyra standing in the broken silence. Lyra trembled. "They'll never stop. They'll hunt me until I'm caged." Ethan placed his hand on hers. "Then let them come. We'll face them together. Her glowing eyes softened, filled with conflict but also something new. Trust. Outside, alien warships lit the sky with fire. The ground shook as the battle began again, and deep within the academy fear spread not just of the invaders, but of the girl who might be their only hope. The sky above Earth was on fire. Alien warships filled the heavens, their dark shapes blotting out the stars. Beams of energy rained down, striking cities, tearing towers apart. The ground shook with every explosion. Panic spread across the planet. The defenses of Earth were breaking. At the academy, alarms blared louder than ever. Students ran, instructors shouted, ships launched desperately into the sky. But everyone knew the truth. This was no small raid. This was the invasion. The end of Earth had begun. Ethan stood in the command hall, armor strapped to his body, blade glowing in his hand. Beside him, Lyra waited silently. Her face was pale, but her glowing eyes told a different story. Inside her, power burned like a storm ready to break free. But soldiers surrounded her. Metal cuffs heavy with suppression fields locked around her wrists. She had been chained by her own people. The black uniformed man stood in front of her, his voice cold and sharp. She is too dangerous. She will not fight in this war. If she breaks control, she could destroy the planet herself. Ethan stepped forward. Without her, we have no chance. You saw what she did at the colony. She is the only one strong enough to stop them. The man's eyes narrowed. Or to finish what the aliens start. I will not gamble Earth's survival on a monster. Lyra lowered her head. Shame and fear twisted inside her. Maybe he was right. Maybe she was too dangerous. But outside, another blast shook the academy. The sky cracked with fire. The defenses screamed over the speakers. Main shield has failed. Enemy forces entering atmosphere. Students and soldiers shouted in terror. The black uniformed man clenched his teeth. Still, he did not release her. Ethan's voice cut through the chaos, firm and fearless. Then I'll release her myself. Before the soldiers could react, he moved. His blade slashed through the suppression cuffs. Sparks flew. The heavy locks broke apart, falling to the floor. Lyra gasped as power surged back into her veins. Her eyes glowed brighter than ever. The soldiers aimed their weapons, but Ethan stood between them and her, his voice sharp. You wanted a weapon, but she's not your weapon. She's our only hope. For a moment, silence filled the hall. Then the ceiling shook as alien fire tore through the academy's outer walls. Screams filled the corridors. The invasion had arrived. Lyra closed her eyes. She could hear the cries of the dying. She could feel the planet trembling, and deep inside she made her choice. She stepped forward. Her voice was calm, strong. Let me fight. Not for you. Not for them. For Earth. Without waiting for permission, she rose into the air, glowing with energy. The walls of the academy shattered as she shot into the sky like a burning star. Ethan followed in a ship, his eyes never leaving her. The final battle had begun. Alien warships descended like giants, their cannons glowing with deadly fire. Fighters from Earth struggled bravely, but they were outnumbered, outmatched. Ships exploded one by one. Then Lyra appeared. She floated in the air, her hair whipping in the wind, her body glowing brighter than any weapon. The aliens turned their cannons toward her and fired. Beams of energy struck her, but instead of falling, she absorbed the light, her power growing stronger. With one scream, she unleashed it all. A wave of pure force burst from her body, ripping through the skies. Alien ships shattered instantly, torn apart like paper. The ground shook, the oceans trembled, the sky itself seemed to split. Ethan watched from his ship, awe in his eyes. She's unstoppable. The aliens roared, sending their largest warship forward, a beast of steel bigger than a city. Its cannons lit up, preparing to fire a blast that could erase half the planet. Lyra rose higher, her body shining like a second sun. She spread her arms wide, her voice whispering through the air. No more. She flew straight into the heart of the warship. Light swallowed the sky. For one long moment, the world went silent. Then the giant ship exploded brighter than a star. The invasion ended in a single strike. When the light faded, silence fell. The remaining alien ships fled into the darkness, broken and terrified. The sky cleared. Earth was safe. On the battlefield, survivors looked up with wide eyes. The same students who once mocked her now bowed their heads in awe. Soldiers who once feared her now whispered in respect. The ugliest girl saved us all. Slowly, Lyra floated back to the ground. Her glowing eyes dimmed. Her body shook with exhaustion, but she was alive. Ethan rushed to her, catching her before she fell. "You did it," he whispered. She gave a tired smile. "No, we did it." In the days that followed, the story spread across every world. The girl once mocked, once feared, was now called Earth's strongest defender. But Lyra never cared for the titles. She cared only that for the first time in her life she was not alone. Ethan had stood by her, and together they had changed everything. The narrator's voice carried the final words, echoing like truth carved into history. Everyone mocked his choice. They laughed at the ugliest girl, but in the end, she was the strongest of them all.